Well, hey. Hi, you guys. Let me turn so I'm seeing comments. Hi, Diane and William and Robert. Hi, John, Monty. Hello, Gracie, Karen. It's so good to see you guys here, especially after missing last week. Hi, Madison, Delana. I think Adam. Hi. Thank you. Happy to be back. Wow, it was a full week. Well, I guess it was only half a week because I got there on hey, Laura. Hey, Laura Ann. Sorry, Laura Ann. And hi, Brad. Good to have you with us. Good tonight. It's nice to have our family back together. Hi, Ruben and Catherine, if you're there. But hi, Ruben. It's good to see your names and your little circle icons along with your names. It's exciting. So, um, we went to content last week, as you know, and wow, it was incredible. It was a great few days. I was only there, they had started I think on Monday or Tuesday. I got there on Wednesday, like midway through Wednesday, and then I was there Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then left on Saturday. It was packed. It just with all kinds of great content and panels and people and interactions and sharing and spending time. Man, it was just, I left so full and so just excited and just refreshed to see everybody and be encouraged. And so for those of you who couldn't make it, we thought maybe and those of you who were there but maybe didn't get enough of it, we thought we would kind of do content 2.00000 and bring on a few people who were at content and who we just didn't get enough time with. And we're just going to kind of do a roundtable. Kathy, thank you very much. That was incredibly humbling, but thank you. I appreciate every one of you guys have been so kind and so encouraging to me. I'm telling you, have just filled my spirit and encouraged me in in a profound way. And I mean that with all sincerity. Um, you guys have really lifted my spirit. Not that it needed to be lifted necessarily, but you've just bolstered and reminded me why we do what we do and what's so great about this community. So thank you very, very much for all of your love and kind words and encouragement. And so content was fun and we want to keep going. And so we're going to bring on several people who were at content and we're going to just kind of have a roundtable tonight. So you're still free to ask your questions. We're going to have several people represented in the grouping here, and we'll have actors, we'll have an agent, we'll have a budding director. So there'll be really a lot for us to talk about, I think. And we'll keep an eye on your questions, or Diego will, because Diego's awesome. And so still feel free to jump right in. Laura Ann, super excited that Friday I'll be on the female directors panel at the Southern Women in Film Summit in Nashville. That's awesome, Laura Ann. Congratulations. That's wonderful. I bet that'll be fantastic. I bet that'll be really fantastic. Well, good. Good for you. I'm glad you're speaking up on behalf of us women in film. So thank you for doing that, Laura. And I wish you all of the best. And I know God will guide your words. Okay, so for tonight, we're going to bring in the guests. I'll have them introduce themselves to you, and then let's just have a big old conversation because, that's what we do on Tuesday nights. Look at that. Look at all these fine people. You guys, this is so fun. It's awesome. Okay, now to make sure I can hear you, why don't I have each of you introduce yourselves and just who you are and what you do, if you're an actor, director, what your thing is, and let's see, and a little bit about like how long have you been in the business, a little bit about that, and then we'll just have one good conversation. So, um, Todd, can we start with you?
Sure, absolutely. Can you hear me okay?
I hear you great.
Awesome. Awesome. My name is Todd Terry. I'm an actor. I'm married to Anna Terry. She's an actress, and both my kids are periodically actors. I've been doing this for about 35 years. Started really in the secular market and then have transitioned to more faith based over the past 10 years and absolutely love it. I love the relationalness of it, if that's a word. And going to content was a great experience for me. I've been the last couple of years. So
Yeah, that's great. 35 years. You're
I'm an
up
old,
on me. So you have a little bit of experience.
I'm just
I
stubborn. I'm stubborn and it's hard for me to get out. So.
All right. I don't know who's showing it. Shazia, are you next on the lineup?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Hi, my name's Shazia Pascal, and I actually met Beverly doing a monologue
Yeah.
here, so that was fun. I've been in the industry since the late 90s, in the secular part of it, and I've kind of made my way through different parts of it. I've been an agent, I've been a producer, I've written content, sold shows, and took time off, raised kids, and then came back, started acting again, and really wanted to work in the faith-based space, and that's what brought me here. And yeah, content was phenomenal. So
That it was fun to I probably of this group of 4 people, probably spent the most time with you, Shazia, but even then it didn't feel like it was enough. So, um, okay. Uh, Joanna, you're on the bottom, right?
Yes.
Of these 4. Okay. I'm realizing, tell me your first name because I feel horrible. Is it okay? Just tell me so I don't blow it.
Me or
Yes, yes.
oh, Josh. I'm sorry, Josh. Josh.
Okay, I was gonna say John and say it wrong.
No. It's
Josh.
Josh.
Josh,
Yeah.
tell us about you.
Cool. Yeah. Hi guys. I'm Joshua Wright. I am really, I would say, fairly new in the industry. I am primarily a director, but I also love to write and I love acting. Acting was my first love. I've always loved film. I've had a passion for filmmaking since I was like 3. It started with acting. And I really got serious about it in high school. I would say I've really been gaining more professional experience these past 2 years. So I have a lot to learn. Content was awesome. And yeah, I'm just excited to be here and learn as much as I can. And Beverly, I want to say thank you for all of your insight and knowledge that you shared at the festival. I attended one of your panels at ICFF earlier this year, and I didn't get a chance to meet you, but I love everything that you're sharing, and I've learned a lot already. So thank you.
Well, that's really nice of you. I'm super glad to hear that. Thank you. I'm excited to get to talk more today too, to you. So, Joanne, right?
Yes,
Or Joanna?
Joanna.
Okay, Joanne. Boy, I'm just doing great, aren't I? I had just a few names to try and remember from the conference, just a few hundred. So, but tell us about you.
Yeah, I'm Joanna Lauer, and I do a few different things in the industry. I am an actress, I am a filmmaker, a singer-songwriter. I'm a radio show podcast host, and just getting into bigger projects. But long story short, I basically started my journey with training and learning about the film industry about 10, 13 years ago. But it's really gained ground ever since 2020. I know that was when the world shut down, but that was really when my career really started blossoming because I was
Yeah.
able to start really digging into those classes. So that's when I started booking work, was in the past few years, and it really started in 2020. But yes, content was phenomenal, and it was a blessing to be there, and it's a blessing to be here as well. So thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, remind me, Josh, you had one film or more than one project at the festival?
Yeah, so I had technically I had 2 projects at the festival. It was a short film and a short documentary, but they only screened the short film. I don't think they screened the documentaries there.
And how did your films do?
Oh, it was really well actually. The
I'm
film
gonna let you brag a little bit.
no, for sure. It got nominated for 6 awards and it won 3 awards. So it was a very, very cool experience. I've been to a few festivals, but this was my first time, the first time that the films won. So it was
Yeah.
really cool. It was really cool. And I'm just really excited to see where God continues to take it. But it was
It was super fun because you were at the table that hooped and hollered and had a lot
yeah.
of fun every time your project won. So that was great. So any Todd and Shazia, Joanna, did you have any projects there this year?
Not me.
Okay. All
I
right.
had running the bases there.
Oh, running the bases that basically ran the bases and won a bunch of stuff. It was fun. Well, I like that we have a smattering here. Let's first of all, of you 4, do any of you have any questions that you wanted to ask over the weekend or the conference that you didn't get a chance to ask? If so, let's start there and then we'll jump. All right, Todd, you go for it.
Yeah, one question I actually wanted to ask was about demo reels in general.
Yep.
Is there a specific length you like for a demo reel? That's the first question. And the second one is, do you believe actors should have multiple demo reels based on character type, comedy, etc.?
Yeah. So my ideal for me personally is like 1 to 3 minutes. If it's 3 minutes long, chances are we probably won't make it to the end, but if I'm really intrigued, then that's about the max I will go. So when you're figuring out the content and where to place it, you'll want to make sure the good stuff's up front, of course. And so some of you who've been on here a little bit may remember me saying I personally am not a huge fan of just a list of clips because I don't know what those even if there's like a little bullet description. I'm speaking of like on your Actors Access, a little bullet description. I don't know that I'm going to click on your best material, if that makes sense, right? So I just want to see what you would tell me is some of your best stuff. So for that reason, that's why I like the reels as opposed to just posting a bunch of individual clips. But when you, Todd, ask about different reels, I do think that's great. So you can have a dramatic reel, you can have a comedic reel, and separate those out. And that's great because I can decide based on the content or what I'm, particularly interested in, which one I would focus on without making me hunt through a bunch of clips that I don't really know if they're the right tone or the right. I just want to see your best work. That's for me, that's the most efficient. And hi, Ophelia.
Hello. I'm sorry.
Uh,
I thought it was 9:30 Pacific time. So
Oh,
Data's like, we're
I love
on.
it. Well, we'll just a second and we'll have you introduce
Yeah.
yourself to everybody.
Absolutely.
So now, having said that, I know you know Mark Fincannon. Mark Fincannon will tell you he loves individual clips. So that's why I say I don't know that I think probably your safest is a divided reel. Someone like you obviously has enough material to have multiple reels. If you don't, then just make one really kick butt reel, one really strong reel. And remember that those first 30 seconds, 45 seconds are going to be the key. So you just want the best stuff in there for that, is what I would say. Does that make sense,
100%.
Todd? Any
Yep.
other, and it will vary by people, but I think you're safest with having 2 separate reels, and then you can list out all the individual clips if you want to. And people like Mark can hunt and peck around all he wants. Oh, gotta love him. Okay, so you guys saw another addition to our group here, Ophelia. Ophelia, introduce yourself to everybody.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Beverly. My name
Yeah.
is Ophelia Hobelt, and I am a talent agent with Johnson Talent Agency. And we are a SAG franchise boutique agency that's based in LA. We just opened a division in Dallas, Texas. So very excited about that. And
Yes.
yeah, I love being an agent. I started out with kids in the industry. So I was a momager for a little while. And so now I kind of get to transfer that over to my talent. So it's a lot of fun.
That's so interesting, and that's how Jean Winger started, was just helping her own child. And it sort of, you just go from there. You get in and learn what you got to learn and figure out what you got to figure out. And so that's great. So we've talked a lot about on here, had questions regarding actors and agents, and
Yeah.
people have said they're looking for, a Christian talent agency. And I've
Yeah.
typically clarified, I don't know that you're looking for a Christian talent agency. I don't know that that's really the ideal. I think it's a Christian who happens to be a talent agent who
Yeah.
would understand your boundaries. Is that a more correct description, Ophelia?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, the agency is not specifically Christian, and
Yeah.
so, but I am a believer, and so when I represent talent, I mean, I have talent that's not Christian,
Mhm.
and I have talent that are Christian, and whatever their faith background is, or the personal convictions are, that is always one of the questions that I ask, and I say, what are your moral oppositions? Let's talk about that. Let's make sure it's clear. Because I'm not going to submit someone who has to something that there's something in it that they have a moral objection to, and
Right.
then what I mean, and then if people are specifically Christians, and then that's just a wonderful added depth of relationship, and the ability to just pray together about their auditions and their callbacks, or they know I'm praying for them, or and then also just to kind of function as a team in a different way.
Yeah.
But I love how you articulate that it's you don't have to be able to feel protected. You don't have to be specifically with a Christian agency, or it's like you just know your relationship with your agent, and know where they stand, and know that they're committed to protecting you and covering you.
Yeah, I'd say several people are wanting to be reminded of the name of your agency. It's the Johnson Talent Agency, correct?
Yeah, correct. Johnson Talent Agency is johnsontalent.com. I think there's another Johnson Talent or something, but we're Johnson Talent Agency. There's like one word in there that's different. I can't remember what it is, but
Okay.
it's Johnson Talent Agency, and it's johnsontalent.com.
Okay. Awesome. So let me go. Well, actually, Todd, Shazia, all of you actor folks, which I guess is really the rest of the four of you. Todd, how has it been for you? You've obviously been doing this a long time. I know you're with Jean now, so she is a person of faith, but did you have an experience with agents who maybe didn't share your faith? And any of that kind of happened for you?
No, I've not had any bad situations. It's kind of a
Good.
case by case with different. I've got different agents around the U.S., so it just depending. Gene is very different than most of them. I have one that is probably more faith oriented, but I can't say they're a Christian. I don't know that for sure.
Yeah.
But I most agents have been pretty good. If I say no, content wise, I don't want to audition for this, and they're pretty good about it. So.
Yeah, I would say the bulk of the agents that I work with are not people of faith. So, but I don't expect that. The ones that I end up having the best relationship with are the ones who respect what we do, right? As long as they respect what your goals are as an actor and the kind of work you want to do And conversely, the kind of work you don't want to do, as long as they respect that and will support that, then that's what's most important. And in some ways, that's part of the being a light out there in the industry, right? Is just you walking the talk every day and them sort of just watching that. And yeah, I think it's a great opportunity to commingle that way. And as long as they and there's an awful lot of them who do respect. There's some that don't, in which case I just don't end up dealing with them because they don't really get what we do. But for the most part, there's a lot of great agents out there who will support their talent that way. So I'm glad you haven't had. Shazia, how's it been for you? Because I know you're in the mainstream as well.
Yeah, I've always been so lucky with phenomenal agents that know that. I tell them off the bat, though, I don't wait until I get the audition or I tell them right when I sign with them, like, I'm not willing to do this, this, and this. And everyone's been great. Or they'll run it by me. They'll run it by me too. And I say no right from the beginning.
Yeah. And I think that is so important because I think there might be a tendency to, out of fear, like you've wanted to find an agent, you've been praying for an agent, you've been looking for an agent, you're desperate for an agent. Someone finally says, hey, I want to represent you, but then you're not sure if they're going to support the things you do. So there's a tendency, I think, to say, well, I just won't tell them because I don't want them to change their mind or pull back or any of that. But in reality, that's actually the worst thing you can do. I think that you're far better off. And Ophelia, you can confirm or offer a different point of view. But
yeah, no, absolutely. I think, one of the things that I see when I start to go over, like, okay, here's the, the part of the question, is we have a whole process when someone wants to be represented by us. We have a whole audition process, and we have the get to know you form. And that's one of the questions on the form that, of course, I talk to them more in depth about if we end up representing them. But it's do you have any moral objections? And I think, it's been interesting to see the way some people answer that. Some people, you can tell they're kind of dancing. They have them, but they're kind of dancing around it. And because I think there is that fear of like, oh, what if I don't get, what if they reject me, or what if I don't, like you said, they're not going to submit me as much. And it's always so much. I just see in our talent, people who are able to just be really upfront and honest. It's like, if I pick that up, I'll kind of, try to talk to them about it and say, look if you have any moral objections, like there's no judgment here. Like a lot of people have, convictions, and you just can see them look so relieved. They're like, oh, okay. And, and you just, if you go in and just offset, just trusting God with your, with your calling and your career, like
right.
He's the one who promotes you, He's the one that promotes us. And so if you just go in with that trust, and then you have so much more peace, you don't have that same anxiety of like, oh, what if I tell them? And if I didn't really tell them, what do I do if I get an audition, there's things in it. And so it's just so much more peaceful. Just
I agree. And I've always felt like it's dishonest to withhold information too. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you can say, well, I didn't mislead, or I didn't lie, but you didn't tell the whole truth necessarily. So, don't be surprised if there's a little rough road in there somewhere. Joshua, are you represented right now as an actor, or in any of as a director in any of your endeavors?
Yeah, so I'm not at the moment. Acting has been something that I haven't been as focused on lately, just because I've really been focused on just kind of producing short films and getting to the place to produce a feature on the directing side. But it's something I wish I could have gotten into more and focused on more. Like I've never really been through like the audition process or the casting process. But I've, on smaller projects, I've worked where I've wanted to cast actors and wanted to cast actresses. And so I'm not too familiar with that world, but I definitely want to learn. And it's very interesting hearing kind of almost kind of like the struggle of, you know, believers, real, you know, believer and Christians that are trying to find roles that fit them. So for me, I haven't had that experience, but I definitely want to learn more.
So if you had to, if you had to put a 1, 2, and 3 on directing, producing, and acting, what order would they go in for you?
Yeah, so
That's why I said if you had to.
if I had to, so I believe I'm called to direct. I believe that I'm
Okay.
called to write stories and produce. And I love that. I love being behind the camera. I love writing. I love editing. I love all of the behind the camera stuff. But it's something different about acting. I feel like in my world, I would say, as far as desires, as far as wants, I would say 1 acting, 2 directing, and 3 producing is what I would say.
Interesting.
Producing, I haven't really done too much producing. I mean, technically, when you're self-funded, you're technically the producer, but on a bigger scale, like an actual producer, I haven't done that. But I would say
Yeah.
acting is number 1.
Well, you have lots of time because you know you guys are all youngins. And remind me, Joshua, where are you based?
So I'm based in Maryland, in Southern
Okay.
Maryland, but I'm
Okay.
planning to move out soon. I was thinking about Orlando because actually I went to film school in Orlando.
Okay.
And Orlando is like a really small film spot, like a really small film hub. It's not like Atlanta or LA, but I have a lot of connections there. So
Yeah.
for now, though, Southern Maryland.
Okay. And Todd, you're based in Texas, right? Are you
Yeah.
based in Texas?
Yeah, just outside of Dallas, about 30 minutes.
Have you always lived in Texas?
Yeah, I've lived here most of the time. I was in LA for a short time,
Okay.
and then I've lived in Holland and different parts of California. But I did want to say something because
Please.
the whole COVID thing, I think, helped actors tremendously. At least
Mhm.
that's the way I felt about it, because it really opened up the doors to local actors who would never get opportunities in other states. And so I think that, to me, that's the biggest blessing of that whole debacle that there is. And just been fortunate to, you know, to have more opportunities. And that's what I think most actors want, just more opportunities. You know, we're interviewers by nature. We're constantly interviewing. And for me, that's one of my favorite parts of it, is just crafting an audition and things like that. Sorry,
Yeah.
I
So
went off.
Shazia. Oh no, keep going, Todd.
No, go ahead. No, I was better.
Shazia and Joanna, have you? Well, and even Joshua, but Joshua, you mentioned that you haven't done a lot of acting. But for Joanna and Shazia, have you found an increase since post-COVID? Or have you found opportunities outside of your specific market where you live as a result?
Absolutely, I have. I feel right now, I feel even during the strike with commercials and like print jobs, I feel busier than I have been in a long time. I also jumped to a different age group too. So I did a lot of stuff. I kind of took that COVID time to reinvent myself, my materials, what I was putting out there, my head. Like I just completely changed everything. And sometimes you need that refresh, and you come back and then the self-tapes help. You know, that's why I left. I was in LA. I moved here during COVID to Texas, and I'm still doing what I love. So it has been a blessing.
Yeah, you know, sometimes, we do need to be more reflective. We need to, you guys are working so hard. Sometimes it is good to, I mean, it's not great that, you know, the whole globe was shut down, but in that, it did cause a lot of us to go internal and kind of reassess some things. And you bring up a really good point, Shazia, that I've said before, and I want to reemphasize again, is we want to be embracing the age we are and not fighting it. Now, it's easier for gentlemen, Mr. Terry, because gentlemen grow and become distinguished, right? They become, and they're ruggedly handsome is how it's described. But has that been a struggle for you at all as far as embracing growing aging for you, Todd?
Well, I was laughing because I was telling Diego before we started, I said, I'm getting all these parts, forgive my terminology, for rednecks. Because my hair's long and the beard. And I appreciate it because it's a different type of character that I don't always get the opportunity to audition for. So I
Yeah.
like being able to change looks and things like that. I think that's makes it fun and inventive.
Yeah, and it's true. If you change your look, it can very much change what you start getting called in for. So either embrace that and go for it, or or don't change your look, because you can't have the longer hair and the beard and then be like, well, why am I not getting cast for the, the executive or now CEOs come in jeans and, ride around their corporate businesses on scooters, so it doesn't really matter. But Joanna, how has that experience, the self-tape? Have you had more opportunities? How's that been for you?
Yes, I would say that there has been exponentially more opportunities post COVID. And I feel like that's for two different reasons. Number one, like I said, COVID was 2020 specifically was such a good time to dig into training. And
Mm,
that I always say that training and yes, training is one of the best things that you can do. I always
mhm,
say that training and networking go hand in hand, because throughout that time that I was meeting all of these new people through classes and through networking in these classes, those
mhm,
also became opportunities. One of them in particular, I started taking classes with Ricky Borba. He is a
mhm,
phenomenal film director, and he started seeing me in classes a lot. He eventually became
mhm,
my mentor, and then that led to an open door. It was like 3 to 4 weeks ago. He's like,
mhm,
hey, what are you up to? Are you busy these days? Do you want to be in my movie? And it was because I was basically auditioning while I was in these classes.
mhm.
I didn't know it at the time, but
Right.
when I got into those classes, I was able to perform for all of these people. And then it opened up opportunities later to be on their sets because they'd already seen me in class. I also feel like a lot of opportunities opened up because one of my agents actually retired, and
Mm,
somebody else at the agency, she became my main agent. And it was like all the opportunities. Like I started getting exponentially more auditions.
mm.
And so it's important to know like who you're working with. I know we had already
Yeah.
talked about being open with your agent, but it was like I did start getting some more auditions, which led to it was actually my first like lead role in a commercial, which I had never had before. It was earlier this year, and then I started booking some bigger commercials off of that as well. So it was kind of like a domino effect, starting all in 2020 and just getting into all those classes.
Yeah, that's great. And I really do think it's true. I think that they always say that forward motion begets more forward motion, right? And I think part of it is just because rather than sitting back and kind of doing a woe is me and why isn't anything happening, you're being active. It's just you're being active, you're stretching those muscles, and just kind of like with exercising things, endorphins, and you just have a better sense of being, and you're challenged and you meet a challenge and you rise to it. That's a great feeling. And so your spirit, your countenance, your energy is all very positive and forward moving. And I mean, let's face it, we're attracted to that, right? We're attracted to people who are excited and who are positive and who are learning and growing. And we, as I and Ophelia, you can chime in as well. And I know Shazia, you were an agent at one time, but and Diego and I have talked a lot about um, when someone is without anybody's help, is like working the social media, and they're doing the auditions and they're submitting themselves and they're in class, they're just doing all those things. I can't help but root for them, and B, I just think, man, if you gave them something, if you gave them a role, if you gave them an opportunity, there's just a strong sense that they would run with it, that they would be
Mhm.
great stewards of that opportunity. um
Absolutely.
Yeah, what do you Diego says facts.
Exactly.
Um,
It's true.
so
I just, if I could just add a
please.
little bit to that, that brings up such a good point, because even on a subconscious level, I think when I see talent that are like taking initiative like that, I
Mhm.
I honestly, when I go to submit them my talent for a project, I think of them first. Not
Mhm.
even on It's not like I'm thinking, oh, I'm not going to submit those other people because they're not, doing much, but they just
Right.
come to mind because there was more interaction. I'm seeing them
Mhm.
post more on social media. They're communicating with me. Hey, I just want you to know I just enrolled in this class, and when I see them working hard like that, it just naturally, as an agent, you
Mhm.
get, like you said, you want to root for them, and then also they come to mind. So
Right.
it pays off. Even if it doesn't feel like the seeds that you're planting are paying off, because it's an investment, right? It's a financial investment, it's a time investment, but they do pay
Right.
off their seeds, and they
Right.
do bear fruit.
Absolutely. Um, Todd, have you ever directed? Is that something you've thought you've wanted to do or something you see yourself doing in the future?
Yeah, I absolutely want to. It's probably fear that's kept me from doing it. My
No
wife,
fear. No fear. We're gonna
fear.
all pray against fear for you, Todd.
Yes, anxious for nothing, all things through prayer and supplication. That's one of my
Yes.
that I say. Yeah, it's just it comes from being a kind of perfectionist, and I'm like, I
Mm,
want to do it, but I want to make sure the project's right. But yes, the answer is wholeheartedly yes. My wife directs, and she's kind of like fearless and goes out and does great things. She did her own music video, and so she's inspiring to me from that aspect. So yeah,
yeah.
someday I will.
It's interesting how God pairs us. I tend to be someone who is I mean, at the end of the day, it's fear, but it is a little bit of perfection. It is a little bit of not wanting to fail, those kinds of things. And I get paired with other people who are fearless and I just kind of watch and wonder, but I glean from it. So,
Yeah.
and there's some amazingly fearless people in our community, which I just love. What about you, Shazia? Have you ever thought about going into the director's chair or producing?
I was at
Oh,
one time, yes, and yeah, I was with Gersh. I used to create content, pitch. Like, I sold a show to Discovery Channel once, and
wow. This whole world I didn't know, Shazia.
oh, I know I have all this random stuff. I've just been in the industry for so long,
Yeah.
and I think it's important to be in different parts of it because you learn so much, and then you have
Mhm.
this like bigger love for what everybody does and respect. And so, and it takes everyone to make this thing run. And so, yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
I
For
loved it. I mean, when I was in the director chair, I was 8 months pregnant. So everyone was amazing to me. They were running around getting me cronuts, and it was
Oh, I love it. I love it. Um, Joshua, you said you graduated film school, and what so coming out of film school, what did you 2 things. What did you feel like they really prepared you well for, and what do you think film school didn't actually give you a clue about?
Yeah, so I think it depends. Film school is one of those things where people either love it or hate it. I loved it because for me, the biggest thing I lacked was professional experience.
Mm, mhm.
Professional experience as far as things like what to do, how to call shots on set, things like color grading and editing and the
mhm.
art of directing. They didn't really teach acting, but the behind the scenes stuff, I learned pretty much my professional experience from that. Um, I would say they also did a really good job at preparing me and preparing students for what it's like in the industry, what it's like to make connections. They taught us networking, how important it is to, you know,
That's good.
talk to people and understand who you're talking to do research and things of that nature.
Yeah.
I would say the thing that I personally wasn't really, I mean, and they were real, they were kind of upfront about it, but more so how to sustain yourself after you graduate. because a lot of people went to Full Sail with the illusion, and they never marketed themselves as the school that will give you a job immediately after you graduate. A lot of people go to Full Sail with the illusion that you'll go to Full Sail and then you'll just immediately have a job and you'll be making 6+ figures or whatever the case is. And that's just not the case. It happens for some, but that's a minority. That's one thing that I feel like a lot of people don't really understand about film school, is that you got to understand, why are you going? I went because I felt called to that area, but also to really meet people, to network. But if you're going with the expectations that that'll give you like a foot in the industry, I don't think that school is for that. So.
Yeah. And Joanna, what has been some of the most helpful counsel or advice or tips that you've received so far?
So there's been a couple things. Number one, just to be a Christian in the industry, knowing your boundaries and don't cross them. That was something that I've been hearing for several years. And I know we touched on that earlier, like talk to your agent, find out what you're willing to do, what you're willing to not do, and really think to yourself, like, don't just say, I'm not going to do any of this. Really plan it out. Say, what do I want to do? What do I not want to do? What do I want to avoid? But I also think some of the best things I've learned have been acting techniques specifically. Like I actually talked to a lot of different people, even talked to some people at Content about how they build a character. We also watched your Mastering the Audition workshop, which was phenomenal, by the way.
Oh, good.
Good. That, going in deeper with the emotions, don't just have an emotion, have a sub emotion. Why do they feel that emotion? Things like that have been really helpful. Like I talked about taking some classes in 2020, and I took a lot with Jen Gotson Chandler, who also became a mentor to me. And some of the techniques that she had learned were game changer techniques for me. And one of those things was like finding 3 adjectives to describe your character from beginning to end. Because you're going to have a character arc, you're going to change.
Right.
But in that moment, what are 3 adjectives to describe your character? Things like that became so exponentially important to me, so that I was able, especially on cold reads when I didn't have time to go in and do all the little nitty-gritty details about the character, I was able to bring a character to life with those 3 adjectives. And I feel like it might have actually been Josh, because I was on the actors panel at Content, and they had asked a question, and that was one of my answers, was find those 3 adjectives, because it was one of those tips that really helped me in cold reads to be able to get a character quickly. But that was just subtle things like that really, really helped.
Yeah, to piggyback on 2 of the things you just said. One, you and I said this at Content, which is we should be thinking of our scenes and your scenes and your characters like a melody, like a music. You got to take us somewhere. There's got to be some movement. There's got to be some highs and some lows for our ears to be intrigued by that and not just bored at sort of one level. And so, having 3 that are different. And similarly, I typically ask the 3 emotional beats or emotional words, but adjectives is another way of accomplishing that same thing. The other thing you mentioned that I want to reiterate is deciding those boundaries in advance. You don't want to be trying to figure out what your boundaries are in the midst of a heavy decision, like a big audition or a callback, or maybe an agent who doesn't understand, because I know we've had several people who have had that, pressuring you to do something that in your heart you don't feel right. And that's probably not the best time to start thinking about what your boundaries are, but in advance, thinking about that. So just to wrap us up, I'd just love to go through each of you. And by the way, I just love you guys being here. I just love you being here. I have great respect for all of you guys and for your journeys. And I learn from you guys all the time and love watching your work. So thank you for joining us. This is super fun. But I'd love to finish just with each of you. What's your word of encouragement or advice? Or what do you kind of just want to leave? What closing thought do you want to leave with? We'll start with Ophelia.
Yeah, what a great question. I would say, for you as actors, it can be very discouraging. You go to audition after audition, and you don't hear anything back most of the time, and then you finally get that call back, and you go, and you still don't get it, and it can go on like that for a long time.
Yeah.
And so I just want to say, if you feel passionate about what you're doing, if you really love acting, and particularly if you have a relationship with the Lord, and you feel that you've heard the Lord say, this is what I've called you to do, I just really want to encourage you to stick with it, and to look at every audition as a victory. Because, and Beverly, you can speak even more into this than I can,
It's
but
true.
you're looking at, if you get an audition, you've been chosen out of hundreds of people, and
Yep.
you've gotten in front of the casting director, and if you get multiple auditions from them, they're trying to hire you. They like you,
Right. It's true. It can be
right.
frustrating sometimes because I'll call in some people over and over and it just hasn't worked out. And yeah, they're probably thinking, she never hires me. I don't know. And it's like, I'm trying to hire you.
Exactly. You like them.
Right.
And it can
Exactly.
just, right. And it can just be so many
Mhm.
reasons that you don't get it. It can be, the
Right.
ultimately the producer and director, they might have gone in a different direction at the last minute, or there's
Right.
just so many things. And so
Yeah.
just, that, you're planting seeds, do every audition in faith, and, at the right time, at God's right, perfect timing, there's something out there that is perfect for you. And so
Yeah.
just don't give up. You want to, I think when people, sometimes I think when, especially in the beginning, if you're new, you think, well, okay, I might try this acting thing
Mhm.
out, not realizing that really trying out acting is like a 10-year try. And it's kind of like, if you're really serious about this, like, I encourage you to give it like 10 years. It doesn't mean that you're going to have to wait 10 years to get any work.
Right.
It just, you just want to look at it as the long game, and know that this is a game of perseverance, and
Yeah.
that role is out there for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, you're not alone in that. There's others journeying that journey. So that's why community becomes so important. Just that we,
Absolutely.
encourage each other. Joanna, what are your closing thoughts?
Yeah, I'd like to kind of piggyback off of what Ophelia was saying about not giving up, because there have been dry years, not just like
Mhm.
a couple months, but dry years with my agency where I didn't book anything for an entire year. And then comes this year when the bookings start coming in. So there are going to be dry moments. Don't let that
Mhm.
discourage you. The Lord says, write the vision and make it plain. So keep the vision before you. If this is where God called you, put it in front of you. Always remember to look at it. This is why I do what I do, because the Lord called me to this. And in the moments in between, find ways to level up, even just a little bit. Some other things that you may consider, if you've been taking a lot of acting classes, maybe branch out and take some classes for like directing. So maybe you can
Mhm.
understand how a director thinks, or take
Mhm.
some classes about learning the business. Some really great classes I took with Jen were about IMDb. I didn't know how to
Mhm.
do an IMDb page. I didn't know how to do any of that. But as I learned this stuff, I was able to utilize IMDb and start, because I do some producing and directing and things like that. I was able to not only give credits to other people that were in my music videos, but also use that to promote myself, and use it as a tool. But I had to learn
Mhm.
about it. So during those dry years, just keep leveling up and keep growing, and always keep that vision before you. Don't let it slip away.
Yeah. Awesome. Joshua.
Yeah, I would say that's really good. I'm really just gonna be piggying back off of that. I would really say just trust God. I mean, I know that it can sound like such a cliche thing, especially as believers. We hear that a lot, but it's different when it becomes reality, because again, it's so true, Joanna. When we are in this industry, there are dry years. I like the way you put that. There are dry years. There will be seasons where we question God. There can be seasons where we get frustrated, but it's understanding why we do what we do. If this is something that God has called us to, that it's our purpose, and it's truly believing and trusting that God will open the doors and that God will also close the doors that need to be closed, because sometimes rejection, my dad says that sometimes rejection is a form of protection. If we get that role, or if we get that opportunity, we could end up compromising, in some way, shape, or form, because, not every blessing is of God. But it's understanding that God, whatever your will is, God, if it's your will, then open it. If it's not your will, then close it, and truly letting him be. I heard this at Content. I don't know who said it, but it was so good. Letting him be our agent, letting him be our casting director, and truly meditating and staying in the word, because that's our foundation. Beyond our talent, our foundation is in the word.
Yeah, that's awesome. Shazia.
Wow. I would say to just be you and bring yourself into this industry and know that God made you perfect and who you're supposed to be. Don't lose that. Don't worry about people pleasing or, trying to figure it out how to do it perfect. Don't do it perfect. Just do it you, because nobody else like you. And it's just so amazing when you see that an actor is just bringing truth and their silliness to things. And so, just be yourself.
Yeah. Sometimes that's exactly what we're looking for. Or sometimes we don't know that's what we're looking for. And then they come in and it's like, that's what we were looking for. So true. So true. Todd.
Yeah, everybody said great stuff. I mean, what you just said, Shazia, about being you is so critical. I think actors have a tendency to want to put on a character rather than knowing they are the character under the given circumstances. And it's so much more interesting to watch someone who is not acting, so to speak, that is allowing that thing to come through them under this. But the one thing I would say is don't give up. Just don't give up. All of this is a lesson in perseverance. You want to build the fruits of the spirit, become an actor, because it can suck the life out of you, but it's like, I need you, God. So, but the one thing I would say to actors in general, if you're going to do something, learn more about screenwriting, not because you want to become a writer, but because of what storytelling is all about. Learn more about storytelling. It makes it so much easier when you get some sides to get out there and create the story based on, the technical aspects of what that is. So,
yeah. That's a really good thought, Todd. Thanks for sharing that, because the writers have to go through the process of creating the characters, and you have to go through the process of understanding that character, and then in turn creating your version of that character. So if you have an insight into that creative process on the writing side of it, I can imagine that would be very helpful in your work as an actor. I just think you guys are fantastic. I love everything you had to share. And there were all kinds of, I don't know if you guys could see the comments, but there's all kinds of amens all over here to everything you guys are saying. And lots of kudos to you for what you've been saying, and then also for your work. And so just know that the 5 of you guys, are appreciated and loved by our community as well, and valued. And as we go on our Tuesday night, our Let's Talk Tuesdays, I look forward to hopefully having some time where maybe one-on-one we could have a Tuesday night with each of you individually and be able to get even more in depth. And then we look forward to the time, Todd, when we're here talking about the first project you're directing.
Yeah, me too.
I bet you do. Awesome. Well, I appreciate each one of you. Oh, Josh, you have something?
Oh, just real quick. This is my first time on here. Are these live on Facebook? You just go to Facebook and find your page?
Yeah,
That's
so
the
it's Beverly Holloway Casting, and then it'll be on Facebook. And we're working on I'm not doing it. Diego's doing it because Diego's awesome. But he is working on getting it available on like Spotify and some of the other platforms eventually. Oh, there he is. There's the
No.
man.
It's gonna be on Facebook and it's on YouTube right now, and then it's gonna be available on Spotify and Apple Music. What's up, y'all?
So, okay.
That's
So
Diego. He blips in, says something brilliant, and then blips out. So that's just the way it is. So anyway,
Beverly Holloway to Casting on Facebook.
Beverly Holloway Casting is my Facebook page. Yeah. And
Got it.
then the YouTube, I think, might be under the same thing. So we'll try to post something on my page to remind where it's available to listen to. So yeah, I think we're getting ready to do a monologue in a couple of weeks, another monologue challenge. So I hope you guys will join us. And yeah, I'm just excited to go back and circle back with each of you guys individually as well, and dig a little deeper. And you're loved. Appreciate all the work you're doing, and appreciate you being here tonight. And it was good to see each of you since I got to see you face to face. I look forward to the next time that happens. For everyone else, you guys, I love all of your questions. We didn't get to as many of the questions, but as always, Diego monitors the questions and then flags some that we'll address in future sessions. So fear not. We will get to them eventually, I'm sure, if we didn't quite get them all answered today. So anyway, love you guys. Thanks all of you guys for being with us, and have a great rest of your week. Bye.